Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Arali and today I want to talk to you guys about some fractals. So fractals being one part of the endgame that I think ArenaNet did a really nice job with, and whenever we get updates for fractals I really enjoy it, and I've always enjoyed the fractals ever since they came out. And I'm kind of sad that ArenaNet has stepped away from them and really not made any more. So I just wanted to take the time to come up with some concepts. Now these are not concepts based on mechanics and stuff. These are just pretty much lore concepts, because I think the fractals, one interesting thing that they do is they have this opportunity to really be anything, because it's the fractals of the mist. So they can happen at any point in time, they can happen on any place, anywhere really. So we have this opportunity to really just go anywhere and do anything, and they really have done that with a lot of the fractals. And of course we have, Dessa with her quirky dialogue, and we got the little sub stories that happen here and there, little stories with her, what's going on there, and then each fractal has like its own story that's going on and stuff. But I kind of wanted to give you guys a few examples of some fractals that I would like to see. So the first one is the Abaddon Fractal. Now for people who haven't played the game for a long time, that are maybe newer to the game, so in season 1 of the Living World we actually had to there was a vote, there was like a whole politics thing going on, we had to vote, and I'm not going to get too much into details, but depending on who was the winner of this vote, we would get one of two fractals. Now Ellen Keel was the winner, and when she won we got the Thermonova Reactor Fractal, and the other person was Evan Nashblade. Now if he would have won, then we would have gotten the Abaddon Fractal. Now there was, as far as I know, there was some data mined maps that could have been the Abaddon Fractal, but we never ended up seeing it because he didn't win. So I think it's been very many years and we've had a lot of new players in the game, so I think it would be really interesting to actually see this Abaddon Fractal come into the game. I would really like to see that. I've recently talked a lot about the gods, but I would really like to see what they could present to us, more story about the lore, more background about that stuff. And Abaddon isn't that famous to the players who only played Guild Wars 2. For the people that played Guild Wars 1, we know a lot about him, but for the people that only played Guild Wars 2, you don't know that much about it. So it'd be really cool to see that. We could see how the gods maybe defeated Abaddon, or we could play as some of his Marganites who were the Abaddon followers, maybe even help Lord Jade. He was the first Marganite to transform into a demonic being. I've recently talked about the naval battle that they had on the Crystal Sea. By the end of that battle, the whole sea was transformed into a desert, so we could maybe see that. So that's one concept, just a few ideas on where this could take place or what we could see and stuff. It would be really interesting. Now another one that I have is Pre-Searing Ascalon. So again, this is kind of going back to Guild Wars 1. In Guild Wars 1 there was a tutorial area that was right before the searing of Ascalon, and Pre-Searing Ascalon is this beautiful area, and if you ask anyone that played during that time, they really love that map. They really enjoyed it. It has some great music and it's very atmospheric and it's very relaxing and stuff, and it'd be really cool to see that. We could have a travel to the Northlands or something, where that was one of the main things you could do in Pre-Searing Ascalon, was go to the Northlands and defeat the Char back then. Another one could be the journey into the bunker, where we defeat Vadlaw Doomtooth, which is one of the Char enemies that had crossed the Ascalonian wall, which stood strong back in Guild Wars 1, right before the searing and stuff. Maybe another concept or another place could be maybe the Wizard's Tower, because there was, in one of the explorable areas there was a Wizard's Tower, and we never got an explanation as to what it was for. Maybe there could be something that deals with that Wizard's Tower. But just seeing Pre-Searing Ascalon in Guild Wars 2 would be really cool, and we have seen like the urban battleground is Ascalon stuff, but that is like right before the Foe Fire, and we play as Char, so it'd be nice to play the other side as just humans maybe back in Ascalon. That'd be really cool. And another one is something that I've talked about in one of my recent videos, which is Ancient Orr. Now I recently made a video about the human gods, and I talked a little bit about, I had a theory about Grenth and the Scepter of Orr and stuff, and it'd be really cool to maybe see the little thing that I talked about there, where like Grenth was fighting Doom and he ascended to godhood. Like that could be the whole fractal of us helping him and his 7 Reapers like defeat Doom and ascend to godhood. Like that would be really cool. Or maybe if we're going to Ancient Orr, maybe we can do the arrival of humans, right? That was a very big event and we don't know very much about it. We know that humans aren't from Tyria and they were brought by the gods. Now it'd be really cool to see some of those people, and maybe they could talk about where they came from and we could get more information on on that, so that would be really cool. Next up is something that pertains to, I would say, End of Dragons, or at least Cantha, which is something about the Harvest Temple or Jade Wind. Shiro was the one that killed the Emperor, and then he was attacked by Nika and by Saint Victor and Archimedes, and they defeated him or whatever. It would be cool to maybe see that. Maybe we could be helping the attack on the Harvest Temple against Shiro. Have him be the boss at the end that we kill or something, and have the Jade Wind be that big event that happens right at the end of most Fractals, where something is approaching fast and we really have to leave really quickly. You know, that happens very often in a lot of the Fractals, so that'd be really cool. Another one is Utopia. So Utopia being the third standalone campaign that was planned for Guild Wars 1, and it ultimately was scrapped in favor of starting production on Guild Wars 2 because they had all these ideas, all these things they wanted to do for it, all these features and stuff, and they thought it was just too big of a scope for Guild Wars 1, so they ended up making another game, and then they just made a regular expansion which ended up being Eye of the North instead. And a lot of things were integrated into Eye of the North, but I think there's a lot of concepts that we didn't get to see. And there's a lot of concept art that shows Utopia being this like jungly area with like Mayan and Aztec influences and stuff like that, and it would be really cool to see a Fractal. You know, they would have like endless possibilities with that because they could show us new enemies and new areas and new NPCs and all kinds of things, and they could just reuse a lot of the jungle stuff that they have used for Heart of Thorns. You know, they could reuse some of those assets and stuff, so it'd be really cool to see that. Now another one would be the last rising of the Elder Dragons. That is even further back than when the gods arrived on Tyria, but it'd be really cool to see the 5 elder races fighting the dragons, and maybe even because back then the Giganticus Lipicus were still like a race, like they weren't extinct yet, so maybe they were involved in the fight. You know, this was something that we recently talked about on Twitter actually, where someone brought that up, where they didn't know that the Elder Dragons were the cause of the Giganticus Lipicus being extinct, and that would be really cool to see, to go back to that, and we could see how the elder races plan to attack. You know, we could see the Seers, the Dwarves, the Jotun, the Mersad, and the Forgotten, like how they worked together, what they were planning on doing. That could be something, I don't know, but it'd just be cool to see the last rising of the Elder Dragons. And last up on the list here, I have the Malyck Fractal. So for those of you who don't know, Malyck was a character in the Savari personal story in one of the like early levels, and he was from a different tree, and you actually help him like figure out what's going on, and he ends up leaving to go find his own tree. And when Heart of Thorns came around, a lot of people were expecting for us to see Malyck come back or see some kind of story that involves him or something like that, and we ended up not getting any of it. And the developer said that they just didn't have enough time to integrate it properly, the story and stuff, and give it like everything that it needed to be like really good, which kind of is sad to me because now we're left with nothing. Like I would have maybe rather have had like a short story that like involved him, or some kind of like sidestep that involved him or something, but now we have nothing. So I feel like ArenaNet can really take this opportunity and still make his story relevant by giving us a Fractal, and to make it to the point where they can make it maybe where it works out where he didn't show up in Heart of Thorns, is maybe that by the time he got back to his tree is when Mordramoth reawakened and his tree ended up turning evil, but because he was released out of his pod so far away from his tree, he didn't have a connection really to Mordramoth anymore, and that kind of gave him like freedom, like he was like pretty free from the influence maybe or something, or maybe because he was close to us and he was close to our dream, maybe like the Pale Mother can protect him as well or something, I don't know, but something around that. And then maybe he actually gets to his tree and they end up being all Mordrum and they all attack him, and he ends up having to defeat his own tree and burn it down or something, because he's like, well, these are evil, and you know, maybe he finds out that Silvaria dragon minions on his own, and he just thinks, you know what, these are already taken over, they're lost and I can't save them or whatever, and he burns down his tree and leaves on a journey to like figure out what his purpose is at that point. And that's why we don't see him in Heart of Thorns, because he just left on a journey. But it'd just be really cool to see a Fractal that maybe explains his story. You know, we could help him with his tree, maybe he has like a group of followers, maybe there's certain people that didn't turn or something, and that's who we play as, and we help him defeat the tree or something and burn it down, and we end up leaving on a journey somewhere else, and maybe we'll see him somewhere in the future. Like, they could set that up where maybe at some point in the future, if we go somewhere else in Tyria, that we maybe meet him there and maybe see what his story is all about. But that'd be really cool to maybe wrap that up, and they could do that with the Fractals, you know. So, but that's pretty much it for all my ideas. There's a couple more, and of course I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of different ideas, especially if you look at the lore. There's so many opportunities to do different things, especially now that we're going back to Cantha and stuff. There's so many things that we could do that don't necessarily have to be Guild Wars 1. They could be earlier, or they could be something in the future or something like that. But it'd just be really nice to see some more Fractals. I really enjoyed them, and I really enjoyed the lore that it brings with it, and the achievements and the mechanics and stuff. It's just really nice to see that type of stuff. So, but that's pretty much all I had for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down below if you guys have any other ideas for Fractals or anything like that, and I would really appreciate it if you haven't subscribed to hit that subscribe button and leave a like if you like it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, bye guys.